Okay, so let's go over this Obama situation first. This story broke yesterday, guys. Basically, Obama, as you guys know, there was a whole RussiaGate controversy from a couple years ago when the Trump administration came in. So let's go ahead and get in. We got our boy Sean Hannity, LOL.
So on his very first day in office, President Trump signed an executive order announcing that the federal government would, quote, take appropriate action to correct past misconduct related to the weaponization of law enforcement and the weaponization of our intel community. No person alive today knows what it's like to have the full force of the federal government turned against you better than Donald Trump. Well, he does not want any other Americans to have to go through what he went through, because President Trump, frankly, has been bent to hell and back. And it all.
That's one thing that we got to give Donald Trump credit for. For those of you guys, because look, it's easy for us to forget that. But dude, I remember like 2022, 2023, like these were, that was a dark time for Donald Trump, right? To give you guys a nice little refresher. So it all started, guys, when he got charged in the state of New York for falsifying business records. And basically this case was the first time a former president was ever charged criminally in a court in the United States. Alvin Bragg, the attorney general out of New York City, basically, or the head, or the district attorney, excuse me, out of New York City, he brought charges against Trump. Now, the reason why this shit was crazy is because the charges that they came at Trump with were charges that they almost never utilize. The falsifying business records is typically a misdemeanor charge, guys. But what they basically were able to do was they were able to get it to a felony level based on, without getting too technical, they were able to kind of link it to the campaign, okay? Because basically his former attorney, was it, fuck, I forget his name. What is it? Who the attorney was. Someone in here is going to remember. But regardless, basically they paid hush money to Stormy Daniels, the star, and they tried to construe it as that was campaign funds, and they were able to elevate it to a felony. Then, after he was charged there, he got charged down in Florida, right? Federally for the document case. I'll never forget, the FBI raided his house in Mar-a-Lago, and they found boxes of information. This is where he was saying, look, that stuff's declassified. I declassified it myself, etc. So that was also very bad. Then he got indicted out of Georgia with Giuliani and a bunch of his lawyers on a RICO case by Fani Willis. Okay, the same prosecutor that went after Young Thug. Then after that, he got indicted again out of the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., by Jack Smith for insurrection charges, defrauding the government, etc. So he got indicted 4 times, guys, in 2 federal cases, 2 state cases. The federal cases were being run by Jack Smith, one out of the Southern District of Florida on the document case, and the one at D.C. for the election, defrauding the United States and, you know, the election. And then New York was falsifying business records of Stormy Daniel, and then Georgia was a RICO for miscounting the votes, trying to get people to, basically they tried to say it was a conspiracy, racketeering conspiracy for him to try to get the votes recounted in Georgia, something along those lines. And a bunch of his aides got charged, to include Rudy Giuliani. So Trump went through hell, guys. And a big reason, right, and I don't talk about this often, but one of the reasons why I voted for Trump on top of immigration, foreign policy, whatever, even though the foreign policy hasn't been as great, was I just didn't want him to go to prison and die, guys. I knew the severity. I mean, I don't think there's anyone on YouTube that understands the severity of the espionage charges he was facing. And when I say the espionage cases, I'm referring to the charges that he was hit with out of Southern Florida. That document case, guys, he would have been found guilty on that 100%. 100% he would have gotten found guilty on that one. So I knew the only way for him to survive this and come out of this on the other side was he needed to become president and basically pardon himself. So that's what ended up happening, and we're lucky. But dude, if he didn't win this election, it was do or die. It was do or die. He would have gotten found guilty on that national security one. Because classification levels, guys, and I've talked about this before, but I know we have a lot of new viewers. Classification levels, guys, whether it's secret, confidential, whatever the fuck it is, that's irrelevant if it's national defense information. So if it has anything to do with the military, it still needs to be stored and dealt with in a certain way, regardless of classification level. So that's why they had him cooked. They did the search warrant. Search warrant was solid. I read through the affidavit. They had a lot of probable cause. They had informants in there, etc. Clearly, which I'm sure Trump had to clean house after that. And then after that, they were able to get the evidence, and he would have been cooked, bro. He would have been cooked. So This election saved his life, real talk. But anyway, what else do we got here?
All started at the beginning of his first term with the totally phony Russia hoax. We spent 3 years unpeeling every layer of that onion on this program with John Solomon and Greg Jarrett and Sarah Carter and others. Today, we're learning another shocking detail about the early days of that sham investigation. We have a newly declassified report prepared for President Barack Obama back in December of 2016, right after Donald Trump won, specifically stating, quote, Russian criminal activity failed to reach the scale and sophistication necessary to change election outcomes. And they were talking about one place in Chicago. Now, the deep state did not like the assessment. That was put together by career people, rank and file people. But when the politicized people around Obama got it, guess what? It changed. They never let Obama see it. Then when he asked them to prove that Russia meddled in the election, they just simply complied and they turned it on its head. And frankly, in many ways, you can say they polluted what was real intelligence and they turned it into poison. And they did it to destroy one man. Is it any wonder that there are now reports?
Yeah, the lawfare was absolutely crazy, guys. The lawfare was absolutely nuts against Trump, man.
Reportedly, criminal investigators.
And look, Donald Trump has done some shit I don't like. Obviously, you know, all the support of Israel, shit like that. But he does have a lot of other things right. And quite frankly, one thing we got to thank him for, guys, is that him coming into office actually has helped with receding a lot of this fucking censorship that we got. So, so that's good as well. Community guidelines on a lot of social media platforms have kind of loosened a little bit. So that's a big W as well that a lot of people don't give him credit for. But yeah, dude, it was crazy. It was absolutely nuts.
Investigations, this conspiracy.
And not even as a president. Like, guys, don't forget, like, well, for the younger people here, you guys probably don't know this. Like, Donald Trump, guys, was like a celebrity before this shit. Like, he was a very successful, like, TV guy, right? He had the show The Apprentice. So, like, I was always a Donald Trump fan. Like, I always liked Donald Trump for Donald Trump, not even as a president. So, like, I'll be damned, you know, if I'm going to have a guy that I actually, like, was a supporter of die in fucking federal prison. So that's another reason I voted for him, too. Obviously, I voted for him on policy, of course, but I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't admit that a part of me also likes him for him. Like, you're fired. You know what I mean? Like, I was a Donald Trump fan, right? But I'm still able to criticize him. You guys know I've been very vocal about his foreign policy with Israel, right? You guys know I've been very vocal about the anti-Semitism laws that infringe on our first speech, right? Despite the fact that I like Donald Trump as a entertainer, I can absolutely admit when he does stupid shit.
Investigation by Kash Patel underway, and it specifically names Comey and Brennan. All right, here to give us all.
There we go, it's Comey. There we go. Yes. Oh shit, they actually got fucking Tulsi Gabbard on this. Oh wow.
The details and bring us up to speed.
Yeah, I'll give Hannity credit. Like, this nigga actually be getting people to show up on all the interviews.
With reaction, the director.
He has a direct line to the president, man. Sean Hannity.
National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She declassified this report yesterday, has many more details.
You know what she could have also done? Declassified the fucking Epstein files. Hey, you know, she has the DNI. She could do that. She has everything on Epstein. I've been telling you guys this for almost a week now, that Tulsi Gabbard is actually the real key to getting these documents. It's not fucking Pam Bondi or Dan Bongino or Kash Patel. It's Tulsi Gabbard. She oversees the entire intel community. And the FBI are a member of the intel community.
You know, I have this creation of the Russia hoax that you put out on X, that you posted on X, and I'll put it up as you're speaking here. What is amazing to me as I've gone through this cache of documents you've released is they concluded just the opposite. They concluded there was no problem. And then all of it, that was the rank and file. These were career people in the intel community. They gave honest assessments. Then all of a sudden it ends up in the hands of.
You know what? Now that I think about it, guys, I think that they did this on purpose to kind of get around the Epstein shit. Because this is a big bombshell that she dropped. But I think she did this tactically to kind of bring attention off the Epstein situation. Because people are not letting that go, chat. Niggas are not letting go of that Epstein story.
The leadership, the deep state as we call them, and what happened to it. Can you explain what the process and what these documents reveal?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. This is such an important issue, and I just want to start by saying that this is an issue that is important to every single one of us as Americans. This is not a partisan issue. It has to do with the integrity and the strength of our democratic republic. And it lays out this over 100 documents that you're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice and others, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people who in November of 2016 delivered a historic victory to President Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. You have gone into great detail over the...
And you know, it all makes sense, guys, because if you remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Obama that said Donald Trump will never become president. Now we see why he was so confident. Let me look this up.
And a couple of weeks ago, you told Matt Lauer that Donald Trump would not win the presidency. Mm-hmm. Do you now think that he will not win the nomination as well? And what about Rubio and what about Cruz?
I think...
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Now we know why he was so confident, huh, chat?
Foreign observers are troubled by some of the rhetoric that's been taking place.
Now, guys, let me hold on. This doesn't do it justice, okay? I need to really bring you guys back in time with me. All right? Because niggas be forgetting shit. We got to start with the Bush era. So, after the Iraq War was found to be a monumental failure, and Republicans were honestly not that very liked, Obama ran for president. When Obama ran for president, he promised change. That was what he said. His slogan was, you know, change. Had the mural made and everything else like that. And, you know, he was like anti-war, I'm going to take care of the middle class, blah, blah, blah. So he was a refreshing change from the George Bush administration. And he's a great speaker, very charismatic. So he basically was able to kind of come in, right, and win the election in 2008 by a landslide. Everyone in America was celebrating. I remember fucking Nas came out with that song, My Presence is Black, My Lambo's Blue. Young Jeezy I put on. Like everybody was behind Obama back in 08, right? To bring this back to you guys, because some of you guys are young boys and you don't remember this shit. So when Obama came in, he kind of brought in this very smug, yet refined, yet eloquent, yet higher status and classy presidential allure, while simultaneously being tapped in with culture. What do I mean by this? In one situation, he could sit there and debate Mitt Romney, right, or John McCain in a very articulate and eloquent manner. But then a day later, he could meet up with Beyonce and Jay-Z and say, my favorite album is The Blueprint, right? Or he can go ahead and, go to an NBA game and shoot a fucking basketball, right? So Obama, from a marketing perspective, of course, I'm not talking about his policy, from a marketing perspective, he was literally like the perfect fucking president. He was refined and professional enough as a Harvard graduate where people took him seriously politically, but he was also a minority that was cool and tapped into the culture. So people respected him from a culture perspective too. Does that make sense, chat? So And unless you live through that era, you're really not going to know this. So I'm trying to take you guys back in time with me, right, and set the stage. So Obama, despite my criticism of him and everybody else, he was the perfect fucking president on paper. Harvard grad, son of a immigrant, didn't grow up with that much money, came from Chicago, right? Was a senator, rose his way up, great speaker, lawyer, all this shit, right? On paper, it looks great. Politically savvy enough to debate politicians, but also cool enough to hang out with P. Diddy and Jay-Z back then. I know Diddy's bad now, but back then, Diddy was the guy. 2008, bro, Diddy was the guy. And Diddy also led a huge campaign saying, vote now. He was responsible for helping get Obama into office, by the way, chat. Right? Now that I've set the stage for what being a president was like, let's go into 2015. So this guy, who's a businessman, actor, reality TV star, named Donald Trump, real estate tycoon, comes in and says, I'm going to fucking run for president. Right? And I don't need any donors because I got $5 billion fucking dollars. Right? So this shocked the status quo because having a guy that's a celeb running for president was unheard of back then. Remember, guys, social media wasn't a thing. Okay? It was just TV. So when he ran for president, he took that epic ride down the escalator back in 2015 and announced that he was going to be president. It sent shockwaves across the United States. And I'll be honest with y'all, nobody thought he was going to win. Everyone doubted him. Everyone laughed. Everyone said, bro, this guy, he's not a fucking politician. He can barely, articulate himself. He's not the fucking, coolest guy, right? The guy's a billionaire. He doesn't know how to run politics. So everyone thought he was going to lose, and everyone was so confident that Hillary was going to win. Hillary was 100% confident she was going to win, right? So what ended up happening was Trump was unorthodox and very, what's the word I want to use? He wasn't posh and refined like Obama. Muslim bans. We're going to build a wall. We're going to make Mexico pay for it. We're going to start putting up tariffs. We're going to start making NATO pay their fair share. Guys, this was unheard of shit. Unheard of. Right? So not only was he creating a huge rift in the political space in America, but he also was creating international concern. Muslim ban? This guy's a racist. This is something that was unheard of. So what Donald Trump was able to do was he was able to use shock value coupled with really good marketing of Make America Great Again to win the election. But it wasn't always like this. Like, you guys see the sensationalism with you're the fake news, Rosie O'Donnell is fat, all this. Bro, no politician ever used to talk like this. I hope you guys enjoy the next 2 or 3 years because we're never going to get a president like Donald Trump ever again. Okay, and you could take that to the bank. We are probably never going to get a president as entertaining as fucking Donald Trump ever again, bro. Now that we've set the stage, when he was running for president, the Democrats started to say, were terrified. So this is why they led such a fucking assault to keep him out of office. And that's where this Russiagate bullshit started. Okay? And you can see here, Obama, I think this is from 2016, is like, he's not going to be president. Right? Why was he so confident? Well, now we know why. That we got these declassified statements, declassified documents. Guys, give me ones if that all makes sense for you. If I was able to bring you guys back to 2008 and kind of work it back to now, give me ones in the chat. Because I really want you guys to understand this shit. Because everything else will make sense. We got to do this shit justice. Politics were not always like this, guys. It used to be fucking boring and dry. But thanks to your boy Donald Trump, it's fucking hilarious. But the Democrat Party was terrified of that. All right, awesome. I see a lot of ones. All right. Awesome. All right.
And
I hope I was able to bring you niggas back to 2008 with me.
these Republican primaries and Republican debates. I don't think it's restricted, by the way, to Mr. Trump. I mean, I find it interesting that everybody's focused on Trump primarily just because he says in more interesting ways what the other candidates are saying as well.
Boom. There you go. He was a fucking threat, bro, to the Democrat Party.
And so he may up the ante in anti-Muslim sentiment, but if you look at what the other Republican candidates have said, that's pretty troubling too. He may express strong anti-immigration sentiment, but you've heard that from the other candidates as well. You've got a candidate who sponsored a bill that I supported to...
All right, so let's go back here to Tulsi Gabbard. Now you guys got the vibe of what the fuck was going on back then.
These years of what the effects of this document and this decision have resulted in. Obviously.
Oh, and let me go ahead and I think some of you guys gifted subs. Fuck.
A years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a years-long coup, subverting the will of the American people in that election in November. Now, you referenced this President's Daily Brief document that was drafted for President Obama in early December that reaffirmed what the intelligence community professionals, as you say, had been assessing for the previous 6 months leading up to the election, which was that Russia neither had the intent nor capability to essentially hack the outcome of the U.S. election. As you said, President Obama's political appointees pulled that document before it could be published, and it has not been published until we released it today. And the very next day after they pulled that document, President Obama called a National Security Council cabinet meeting to discuss how Russia interfered with the election. Again, this is the first
this
week
is
of December.
9th,
President
right?
Trump had already won. Correct.
This is the December 9th meeting.
That's exactly right. The December 9th meeting, we declassified and released what they call the summary of conclusions from that meeting. Then DNI James Clapper took the lead on what President Obama wanted done, and which was essentially create a document that tells us not if, but how Russia interfered with the election. President Obama delivered the conclusion that he wanted the intelligence community to reach and directed them to find and essentially create and manufacture the intelligence to support the conclusion that President Obama wanted to deliver to the American people. Once that document was drafted, the deep state kicked into gear and did what they usually do. They started leaking this classified information out to their friends at the Washington Post and others who are working hand in glove with the deep state to lay the groundwork for the assessment that they eventually released that served as the basis, once again, for this years-long coup with the goal of trying to subvert the American people's will and usurp President Trump from being able to deliver on the mandate that the American people gave to him when they chose to elect him as president of the United States.
So you had career intel people that came to a conclusion that, in fact, Russia did not interfere, that it had no impact, and they didn't like the assessment, and they have this meeting with President Obama at the time, and they make the decision, a very conscious decision, to pervert real intelligence, turn it into phony intelligence, but also simultaneously something else was happening. And James Comey, for example, was warned about the Russian disinformation dossier that was paid for by Hillary Clinton. He was warned not to trust it, but it became the bulk of information for not one, but 4 separate.
So in other words, they were doing everything in their power to keep Trump from hitting office, chat.
FISA warrants, ruined Carter Page.
Damn near to the level of a criminal conspiracy. And now we got the documents.
His life, but also backdoored an ability for them to spy on President Trump, candidate Trump, and transition team Trump. Nobody was ever held accountable for that either. Now, to me, it sounds like you have appointed powerful bureaucrats that just flat out created a narrative that was false to undermine a duly elected president. Now, if that's not a grand conspiracy, I don't know what would be. Do you see crimes here?
I do, Sean, and I'm referring all of these documents that we have found and uncovered, referring them to the Department of Justice for further investigation, accountability, and action, not just investigation, but action. Accountability has to take place. The American people's ability to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic is literally what's at stake, and therefore the future of our ability to exist as the country that we know it. This accountability is critical to make sure that this never happens again. Exposing the truth and naming those who are responsible should drive that accountability that has to take place. I just want to mention quickly, Sean, you mentioned the Steele dossier. That plays a critical role in these documents that we released, specifically because James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, they all knew that the Steele dossier was discredited at this point. It's not something any intelligence professional looked to as something that could be referenced or should be referenced in any intelligence assessment whatsoever. I know that there were professionals who were told include the Steele dossier in this January Obama-directed manufactured piece of intelligence, and they protested to people like John Brennan and James Clapper. They were shocked that it would even be considered. The Steele dossier was used in this manufactured assessment that President Obama directed be created, along with many other pieces of intelligence that the intelligence community itself, for months leading up to the election, said this is not credible and should not be used at all.
We've got to get to the bottom of this. I hope there are.
All right, so we'll see what happens, man. She's referring this to the Department of Justice, chat. So Pam Bondi's going to get this. We'll see if they actually go ahead and go through a prosecuting. But I think this is going to serve two different things. Number one, it's going to take attention off the Epstein stuff, which is what Trump desperately wants to do right now, let's be honest. And then number two, it's going to go after the people that went after him. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens.